Welcome to Life Stories, where the people you pass on an ordinary Tuesday might just hold the key to your entire past. Imagine waking up thinking you know who you are, your name, your family, your memories, only to have it all shattered by 5 words from a stranger in a pharmacy line. What if everything you believed about your childhood was a carefully constructed lie? What if love and betrayal lived in the same house, wore the same smile, and tucked you in at night? This is a story about identity, about the kind of truth that doesn't knock gently. It breaks the door down. It's about the pain of not knowing and the fear of finally finding out. And it all starts with a scar, a name, and a photo that shouldn't exist. Stick around, because by the end of this story, you might just find yourself questioning everything you thought was permanent. Now let's go back to that rainy afternoon. It was the kind of Tuesday that passed unnoticed, draped in the gray wetness of another dreary Seattle afternoon. Rain lashed against the windshield of Emily Carter's aging Honda as she sat in the parking lot of a Walgreens on Mercer Street, tissues crumpled in her coat pocket, sinuses pounding like war drums. She'd barely dragged herself out of bed that morning. Another day designing logos for small businesses that wanted to be bold but not too bold. Her client had said, as if purple could ever be less purple. Her head was full of cement, her throat raw, her patience thinner than the sleeve of the oversized sweatshirt she was wearing. All she wanted was her antibiotics and sleep. Inside the pharmacy, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like annoyed hornets. Emily stood in line, gripping her prescription paper, aimlessly scanning the gum aisle. Her nose tingled again. She sneezed once, then again. An elderly man behind her muttered something about flu season, and then the woman in front of her turned around. She wasn't particularly remarkable. Early 60s, gray hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun, gardening gloves, and a bottle of ibuprofen in her hand. But the moment her eyes locked onto Emily's face, she froze. Her expression flickered from polite disinterest to utter devastation. Her lips parted, the gloves fell to the floor, and her voice came out in a trembling rasp. She disappeared 25 years ago. Emily blinked. "I'm sorry," she offered with a confused, polite smile, the kind you give to someone mistaking you for a distant cousin. But the woman didn't smile. Her eyes shimmered. Her voice cracked. "You look just like my sister." People had told Emily that before. Friends, strangers, even ex-boyfriends. "You've got one of those faces," they'd say. "Familiar, like someone I knew in high school." But this was different. The grief in this woman's voice didn't sound like déjà vu. It sounded like something broken still trying to heal. "I think you have me confused with someone else," Emily said gently, stepping back. But the woman pressed on. She had green eyes with gold flecks, just like yours, and a scar. Her finger moved to Emily's eyebrow. "Right here. She got it when she was 7. Fell off her bike, 3 stitches." Emily's hand flew to the faint scar above her right eye. She'd always believed it came from a childhood accident, her dad rushing her to the ER, her mom whispering calm words as she cried. That memory felt solid, untouchable, until now. "I'm not her," Emily said, voice shaking. "She was left-handed, had a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on her left shoulder." Emily's lungs seemed to collapse inside her chest. The prescription slip in her hand crumpled. The scar. The left hand, the birthmark. Details she never thought twice about, now loaded with implication. The woman fumbled in her purse, hands shaking, and pulled out a worn photo. "This is her. This is Rachel." Emily took it without meaning to. The child in the picture beamed at the camera, missing front teeth, a pink bike helmet slipping sideways on her head. She was standing in front of a red bicycle with streamers fluttering from the handlebars. The girl looked identical to Emily's 3rd birthday photo. Not similar, identical. Emily stumbled backward, bumping into the candy rack. The world tilted. "No," she whispered. "I'm Emily Carter. I was born in Seattle. My parents are Tom and Diane Carter. I have photos. I have memories. I'm not this girl." But even as she said it, something deep inside her wavered, because her earliest memory was of a cupcake with pink frosting, nothing before age 3. Because the family albums always started with Emily's 3rd birthday. Because the house fire they said destroyed all her baby pictures had never come with details. The woman was crying now. I'm Linda Monroe. Rachel was my little sister. She disappeared from our backyard in Denver. I went inside for 5 minutes, and when I came back, she was gone. We searched for years. We never stopped. Emily dropped the photo like it burned her. Her name, her face, her life. It all suddenly felt like borrowed clothes she'd only just realized didn't quite fit. She turned and fled, nearly colliding with a display of Easter chocolates. Rain hammered her as she burst into the parking lot, shaking, heart ricocheting off her ribs. Inside her car, she gasped for breath, gripping the wheel with white-knuckled hands. At home, she stripped off her coat, marched to the bathroom, and yanked up the sleeve on her left side. There, just beneath her collarbone, was a crescent moon birthmark. A perfect sliver of night burned into her skin. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Hope you're feeling better, sweetie. Don't forget Emma's baby shower next week. Love you. Emily stared at it for a long time. Emma. The name felt different now, like an echo from a life she might have lived, or did live. She pulled out the photo albums. They started, as always, with her 3rd birthday. Nothing before. Not a single snapshot. Not a baby photo, not a hospital bracelet, not a lock of hair. Nothing. Just a sudden beginning, like someone had pressed record 3 years late. The kettle screamed on the stove, but she didn't move. Her reflection in the window stared back, warped by rain, a face she thought she knew. Now, a stranger. What would you do if everything you believed about your childhood turned out to be a lie? Could love justify a stolen life? As Emily prepares to confront the people who raised her, she must choose between the truth that destroys and the lie that protected. But some secrets don't stay buried, especially when they wear your face. The kettle had long gone silent when Emily finally stood, her fingers numb from gripping the photo album like a shield. Her body moved before her mind could fully catch up, opening drawers, pulling out birth certificates, documents, anything that could anchor her to the identity she was now terrified might not be hers. And there it was, her birth certificate. Emily Grace Carter, born May 15th, 1993, Seattle, WA. It looked official. But what was official when you began to question the foundation of everything? She picked up her phone, hovered over her mom's name in the contact list. No, not her mom, Diane Carter. The woman who read her bedtime stories, who stayed up all night during the flu, who taught her how to drive stick on a country road near Spokane. Emily didn't know what she wanted from the call. Answers? Apologies? Denials? Maybe just to hear her voice, to see if it cracked under the weight of truth. Hi, sweetie, Diane answered, chipper as ever. Did you make it to the pharmacy? Emily's mouth went dry. She stared at herself in the mirror, unsure who was reflected back. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. The line went quiet for a beat. Then came the mother tone Emily had known since childhood. Of course, honey. What's going on? Why aren't there any photos of me before I was 3? The silence this time was longer, heavier. The house fire, Diane finally said, voice carefully modulated. You know that. We lost everything. Why are you asking about this now? Emily's throat tightened. Where exactly did we live before Seattle? Oh, sweetheart, that was so long ago. You remember everything, Mom, Emily snapped, the word unfamiliar and bitter in her mouth. You remember the exact date I lost my first tooth, the name of my 2nd grade teacher, but you don't remember our address? What hospital I was born in? Silence again, this one not just careful but afraid. I met someone today, Emily said, her voice low. At Walgreens. Her name is Linda Monroe. She says she's my sister. There was an audible inhale on the other end, then a muffled rustle as if Diane had covered the phone. A man's voice, Tom, came through faintly. Then her mother returned. That woman is confused, she said, but the veneer had cracked. Her voice shook. And Emily, please don't do this. Please don't dig. Why not? Emily asked. Because if I dig far enough, I'll find out you weren't just my parents, you were my kidnappers? We saved you, Diane snapped, and suddenly her voice was full of something Emily had never heard from her before. Rage, guilt, desperation. You were abandoned. A woman, Mark's cousin, told us there was a child, a girl who needed a home. We were told your mother was a drug addict, that she didn't want you. You were so small and scared and perfect. We were told no one was looking for you. We believed it. Emily staggered backward, as if her own reflection had just punched her. Mark? Not Tom. He had changed his name. You changed your names, she whispered. You moved states. You knew. There was sobbing now on the other end. We wanted a child so badly, Diane said through tears. You were a miracle to us. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. Emily ended the call without another word. The walls of her apartment, once warm with thrifted comfort and plants, now felt like a stage set. Props arranged around a version of herself that never really existed. She sat on the floor beside her bookshelf, clutching the stuffed elephant she'd found in her closet. She hadn't remembered it at first. But now, as she traced her fingers over the frayed gray fur, a flash came. A fragment. The scent of lilacs. A woman's humming. The sound of her own giggle echoing off the swing set. Not Diane's voice. Someone else's. She opened her laptop with trembling hands, found Linda Monroe on Facebook, clicked message, typed and deleted a dozen versions of the same sentence. Then finally sent, "We need to talk. I'm ready." An hour later, they met in a quiet cafe off Capitol Hill. Linda looked exhausted but hopeful, her eyes rimmed red, but burning with a kind of cautious light. She brought a manila folder and a plastic bag with something soft inside. "This was yours," she said, placing the elephant between them. "You called him Peanut. You wouldn't sleep without him." Emily's hand hovered over the toy. "I remember him," she said quietly. "Then, is there a way to be two people at once? To love the people who lied to you and still want the ones you lost?" Linda nodded slowly. "There's no rule book for this, only what feels right. And sometimes even that changes." Then she slid the folder across the table. "DNA kit. I already took mine." Emily stared at the small tube and swab inside. Something so ordinary, yet it held the power to burn her life down or rebuild it from ashes. Her hand shook as she uncapped it. The barista called out someone's order. A car honked outside. A child laughed. Emily swabbed her cheek and sealed her fate. What do you think? Can someone be stolen and still be truly loved? Is forgiveness possible when the truth shatters everything? As the test is sent off to a lab that will soon deliver the final blow or the ultimate clarity, Emily's world teeters on a knife's edge, between two mothers, two identities, and a truth that may demand more than she's ready to give. Part 3 reveals the answer. 10 days. That's how long it took. 10 days of pacing her apartment like it was a cage. 10 days of dreaming about red bicycles and lilac-scented afternoons she wasn't sure ever happened. 10 days of ignoring her parents, Tom and Diane's calls, unread voicemails stacking up like broken promises. Every morning, she checked her inbox with a stomach clenched so tight it ached. Every night, she rehearsed what she'd say depending on which truth arrived, Rachel or not. Until one morning, there it was. Results available. Just 2 words, but they split her in half. She sat down on the edge of her bed, hands trembling as she clicked the email. The PDF opened slowly, like it too, understood the weight of what it carried. Probability of biological relationship, 99.9%. Emily felt like she'd left her body. No scream, no sob, just silence. Inside her chest, something caved in. Her name was Rachel Grace Monroe. She had been 7 years old when she vanished from her backyard in Denver, snatched during the 5 minutes her sister went inside to answer the phone. For 25 years, she had lived another life under another name. Loved, protected, lied to. Later that afternoon, she met Linda again. This time, Rachel didn't hesitate. She embraced her sister tightly, as if trying to bridge the years between them. Neither of them said much. Words felt too fragile for the moment. But when Linda finally whispered, "You're home," Rachel closed her eyes and let the warmth of that truth wash over her like sunlight after a storm. The next step was the hardest, facing Diane and Tom. She didn't tell them she was coming. She needed them to be unprepared. When Diane opened the door, her face went pale. Tom appeared behind her, older than she remembered, or maybe just tired in a way love couldn't fix. "I know," Rachel said simply, and handed them the printed DNA results. Diane reached for the doorframe to steady herself. Tom sat down on the stairs. "We thought we were saving you," he whispered. "We were told no one wanted you." "You could have found out. You should have known," Rachel said, her voice shaking. You saw the scar, the birthmark, the green eyes. You had to know. We were afraid, Diane said. Afraid we'd lose you, and we loved you. We still do. Rachel wanted to scream at them, wanted to forgive them, wanted to vanish like smoke, but none of it felt clean. None of it would ever feel simple again. I don't know what happens now, she said honestly, but I need space. I need to figure out who I am without the lies. They didn't fight her. Maybe they knew they had no right. She moved into a small guest house on Linda's property in the suburbs outside Seattle. The walls were freshly painted, the furniture mismatched but homey. On the first night, Linda brought over an old photo album and a bottle of wine. They sat on the floor, flipping through memories Rachel didn't remember but began to feel. Birthday cakes with uneven frosting, summer picnics on scratchy blankets, a father with tired eyes and a gentle smile, gone now but alive in every photo. A big sister always looking back at the camera to make sure Rachel was still there. And, little by little, the memories began to surface. Not clear images, more like echoes. A song, a touch, a feeling of safety and a sudden sharp absence. Sometimes it came in dreams, sometimes when she least expected. The swing set at a nearby park made her cry for reasons she couldn't explain. The smell of gardenias made her feel like someone was calling her name from another room. Rachel started therapy. So did Diane and Tom. The court process was complicated. Technically, what they did was kidnapping. But they were charged with custodial interference and received probation, community service, and court-mandated counseling. Rachel didn't fight it. She didn't want revenge, just honesty and time. Emma came next. Her older sister, now a social worker, met her at a diner halfway between their homes. Rachel had expected awkwardness, but Emma just smiled wide and warm. "Hi, Rach," she said as if they hadn't lost a lifetime. "I kept your drawings." And just like that, something clicked. Rachel met her niece and nephew. Lily, the 7-year-old, climbed into her lap and asked, "Are you the aunt who was gone but came back like magic?" Rachel couldn't answer, only held her tighter than she'd ever held anyone. Life didn't return to normal because normal had never really existed. But Rachel began to build something new. She changed her name legally to Rachel Emily Monroe Carter. A mouthful, yes. But it felt right. She was both of them now, the girl who was lost and the woman who came back. On the 1-year anniversary of that day in the pharmacy, she returned, just stood there by the cold metal shelves and candy display, remembering the moment her life shattered so it could finally become whole. A stranger had looked at her and seen a ghost. Now, she saw herself. Not haunted, but human. That evening, she sat down to write her story. Not for justice, not for pity, but for the others out there. People with quiet doubts, holes in their memory, questions they were afraid to ask. She posted it anonymously on a blog about identity and survival. She closed it with a line she whispered out loud as she typed. The truth doesn't wait for the perfect moment. Sometimes it finds you in the most ordinary places, when your guard is down and your heart is open just enough for it to slip in. Sometimes it saves you. Sometimes it sets you free. How did this story make you feel, and what part stayed with you the most? Comment 100 if this story moved you. Tell us what country you're watching from. Share this video with a friend who believes in the power of truth. Thank you for watching Life Stories.